Charles and Camilla, the Prince and the Duchess, the love story that faced so many challenges. But 35 years after they first met, they finally married. Together at last, they have now become widely accepted as a couple, but their journey has been dogged by the media and the resistance of the grey suits at the palace.
What she has done and what Prince Charles has done is, walk right back into that burning house. And what I mean by that is the very editors, the very columnists, the very people who wrote some of that negativity, they have spent time with. And that takes a great deal of commitment and guts.
Charles had declared that Camilla was a non-negotiable part of his life. And so, against the advice and approval of the royal courtiers, they began the relationship that, in time, the world would come to accept.
She had a lot of ingredients that Charles really fell in love with, and he never really fell out of love with her. So it is a very romantic story.
I think that he had to suppress that love. He isolated himself from that relationship for the first 5-6 years of his marriage out of a sense of duty to the decision that he had made. Did he always love her? Yes, and now you see the fruit of that.
I think in the Duchess of Cornwall that Prince Charles sees she's his soulmate, she's his best friend, and I think that's vice versa. I don't think that's one way. I think they both see that in each other.
The fight for their relationship has proved worthwhile in one of history's greatest love stories. Charles and Camilla have found their happily ever after against all odds. Join us as we look back at the story of our future king and queen, Charles and Camilla. It is no secret that the road to their eventual marriage and very public commitment to each other was not an easy one for the couple. Charles and Camilla were, most probably unfairly, deemed the villains in a story that captivated the nation. Camilla Shand was born on the 17th of July, 1947, daughter to Major Bruce Shand and Rosalind Cubitt, growing up alongside her brother and sister, Mark and Annabelle. Prince Charles was born the following year, on the 14th of November, 1948.
Radio gave no advantage to watchers at the palace. The glad tidings went out everywhere.
This is the BBC Home Service. It has been announced officially from Buckingham Palace during the past hour that Her Royal Highness the Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Edinburgh, was safely delivered of a prince at 9:14 p.m. today. And that Her Royal Highness and her son are both doing well.
Their childhoods were very different. Charles was destined to become king, and he carried the great weight of responsibility and duty on his shoulders. By comparison, Camilla led a much more relaxed and idyllic childhood, which many would compare to the blissful, innocent lives of the characters depicted in stories by Enid Blyton. In the 1970s, Prince Charles was known as one of the world's most eligible bachelors. It was a predestined part of his responsibility as heir to the throne to marry a suitable, aristocratic young woman and to continue the line of succession. Lucia Santa Cruz, his first brief love affair, had decided that the bachelor prince would get on very well with a friend of hers, a young woman named Camilla Shand. The couple were introduced, and it's reported that Camilla said, "My great-grandmother was the mistress of your great-great-grandfather. So, how about it?" She was referring to her great-grandmother Alice Keppel, who was the long-term mistress of Charles's great-great-grandfather King Edward VII. A cheeky and humorous introduction that would mark the start of an epic romance. Charles and Camilla both felt that instant magnetic attraction, and they quickly struck up a romantic relationship. Camilla would attend Charles's polo matches in Windsor Great Park, and they became known as a couple at the exclusive members-only club, Annabelle's, in Berkeley Square. However, in the 1970s, Charles had finished his education at the University of Cambridge and was undergoing his training to work in the armed forces, the expected path for members of the royal family.
If later on I'm to be associated with all three services, it'd be a very good idea to do an attachment with each one. I think it gives one a very useful experience of responsibility and discipline. I think responsibility is the most important thing. It's the actual trust that's put in you to deal with other people, and the feeling that they can perhaps put their trust in you as well.
Well, Charles was in love with Camilla from a very early age. You know, when he was still in the Navy, he fell in love with Camilla. She was funny, she was a great rider, and she made him laugh. And I think that she's very, very attractive to both men and women because of her personality. She's got a wonderful personality. And you know, when Charles first met her, I mean, she didn't care what she looked like, but you know, she was a great horsewoman. She was really sporty. And I suppose she was a challenge too, because, you know, she was basically in love with Andrew Parker Bowles. So I think she had a lot of ingredients that Charles really, really fell in love with, and he never really fell out of love with her. So it is a very romantic story.
Having trained as a jet pilot in the RAF, Charles went on to pursue a career in the Navy, taking on a 6-week training course in Dartmouth. He went on to serve on HMS Norfolk, HMS Minerva, and HMS Jupiter, which took him far away from the woman he loved.
In steaming heat, Prince Charles's frigate, HMS Minerva, edged her way into Nassau Harbour. A few minutes before, he had formally ended his duties as one of the ship's navigation officers and taken on the role again of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, with his personal standard broken from the mast. In the month that he's been with Minerva in the Caribbean, he several times visited the Bahamas Islands, but this was the first time he'd made an official visit. To get to Rawson's Place, where the welcome speeches would be made, the prince walked at speed through an aisle of shouting, yelling Bahamians, with security men running in front to clear a path for him. If it was all a bit confused, the prince showed no sign of being put out by it. The speeches were from a dais placed in front of the old Nassau landmark, the statue of the prince's great-great-great-grandmother, and were brief to the relief of those in full dress with the temperature in the 90s.
I've been looking forward with eager anticipation to visiting Nassau.
There will be 5 days of ceremonial engagements before Prince Charles rejoins Minerva next Wednesday for 2 more months of Caribbean patrol as a naval lieutenant.
At the time, Camilla was not deemed an appropriate choice for the wife of a future king, and Charles was still quite young. He publicly stated he wished to marry by the age of 30, and they did not make a commitment to one another. So, whilst Charles was away serving in the Navy, Camilla went on to marry the other great love at the time, Andrew Parker Bowles, an army officer, a man she had had an on-off relationship with for several years, and with whom Princess Anne had had a brief affair before she herself married and settled down.
I think Charles was very, very hurt when Camilla and Andrew got married, and he stayed well out of it. He was away at sea, and he knew it was going to happen, but he just didn't want to be part of it. So he just stayed well out of the way, and I think he was very, very sad about it, but he knew that probably there was nothing he could do about it.
Charles was said to have been extremely upset about their marriage. He felt he had completely lost someone who had such a special place in his life and in his heart. The prince remained close friends with the newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. Parker Bowles. He and Andrew would play polo together, and Charles was asked to be godfather to their son, Tom. It is said that in 1979, after the death of Lord Louis Mountbatten, Charles turned to Camilla for a comforting shoulder, and they rekindled that spark from many years previously. However, after his decision to marry Diana, he and Camilla parted ways romantically until, as Charles himself said, the relationship with Diana became irretrievably broken down. In the years that followed, scandal after scandal would come to haunt Charles and Camilla. The prince's marriage to Princess Diana began to fall apart, as their incompatibilities came to the surface. Diana had done her duty for a while, producing the heir to the throne and his younger brother, but their differences were simply too much to bear for them both.
The couple had spent a month apart when they reunited to visit Welsh flood victims. But after a few hours together, Prince Charles went straight back to Scotland. The rumours about their marriage were now presented as fact.
Famously, one night at the birthday party of Camilla's sister, Diana confronted Camilla about her relationship with Charles.
I think Diana was terrified. She says she was. And she looked for Charles. She was looking. They went to Annabel Goldsmith's house, beautiful house in Richmond, and it was a big party on probably on 3 or 4 floors. And she looked around. Where's Charles? Where's Charles? And then she realised that he must be downstairs on the lower level in the sort of basement area. Not a basement like we know, but a very glamorous downstairs rooms. And she went down there, and there they were. Then she decided, and then, you know, she obviously got this real anger, because you'd have to be very angry to do that, and brave. And she just confronted Camilla and said, you know, I'm not stupid, I know what's going on. So Camilla must have been completely taken aback. I mean, you don't expect that to happen.
1992 was the year that things changed in the eyes of the public. Whilst the marriage between Charles and Diana had been falling apart for some time, it would be the year that the nation discovered what was going on behind palace doors. Diana secretly worked with author Andrew Morton on the book Diana, Her True Story, which detailed Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana, too, had begun extramarital relationships, and by the end of the year, Prime Minister John Major had announced their separation. The tapes, books, and interviews that would be released one by one caused not only Charles and Diana to separate and later divorce, but also Andrew and Camilla Parker Bowles.
Joining me now in the studio is Andrew Morton, the author of Diana, Her True Story, which brought to the public's attention the state of the royal marriage. Mr. Morton, the palace said today that no third party is involved. Can that be right?
Ostensibly no, but given the fact that the Princess of Wales believes that Prince Charles's friendship with another woman, Camilla Parker Bowles, has cast a long shadow over that marriage, must be considered when you look at the failure of this 11-year union.
Has the interest of the princess and the friends who fed you the information for your book been satisfied by the outcome of today?
I think that we're seeing a situation where the Princess of Wales has everything now that she could possibly want for while staying inside the royal family. She still has custody of the children, she still has her royal position, she still has her royal duties, which should give her so much satisfaction. And now she's managed to ease out the man in her life, Prince Charles, the man who's given her, over the years, so much pain.
And was your book part of the process of getting her what you describe as satisfaction?
I think that's rather Machiavellian. I set out to write a profile of the Princess of Wales, not just her married life, not just her royal life.
Would the princess be sad, relieved? How would she be tonight, now that all this is out?
She is relieved that at last the lying is over, the masquerade is over, the whole thing is out in the open.
And Prince Charles?
Well, for his part, obviously it's a sad day, because he will have to soldier on, knowing that more revelations about his private life, his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, may well come out in the future.
You think that's a possibility, that there'll be more revelations about third parties, despite what the palace says?
The fact that the Camilla Gate tapes, the so-called Camilla Gate tapes, have not yet been published remains a sword of Damocles hanging over Prince Charles's head and could fatally damage his position.
There were so-called secretly recorded tapes everywhere. First, Diana Gate, allegedly a conversation between the princess and a male companion she called Squidgy. Then Camilla Gate, allegedly between Charles and his lover. Then the Highgrove tapes, supposedly of arguments between the prince and princess at their country home.
I think the public were quite shocked when the separation was announced, because I think they just thought, well, you know, it's going to go on, you know, we're going to have more and more and more dramas and more stories. But I think we probably didn't think that there would be a separation. So right after what the Queen called her annus horribilis of '92, when the fire of Windsor Castle, the separation of Charles and Diana, the divorce of, or the separation of Andrew and Fergie. Princess Anne was already divorced and remarried. Everything had gone wrong. And then right on top of that came what we called the Charles and Camilla tapes. And they were published in January '93.
Tabloids contacted tonight by ITN, including The Express, The Star and The Sun, said they wouldn't publish the full text.
The press in general is at the centre of a major debate over privacy, with the Calcutt report looming and the controversy over that even today. So we have taken a decision today not to publish the full transcript of the Camilla Gate tapes.
It was a conversation Charles and Camilla had previously, and it obviously was done by a radio hacker, but it was very intimate, regardless of the fact that Camilla was absolutely charming and said how wonderful he was and how much she loved him. And you saw that this was a true love affair, but it was just awful. And I think all the foreign press was saying, no, there's no way this man can ever be king. It was that embarrassing.
But with thousands of copies of the magazine now being faxed around Britain, some editors are uneasy.
Those in the know in London and the chattering classes and those with fax machines to Australia can know what's in it, but the rest of the country doesn't. And that reminds me of the 1930s, when a few editors and posh people in the know knew about the abdication crisis, plain folk didn't.
Buckingham Palace tonight declined to comment on the contents of the magazine. There's been no comment from Mrs. Parker Bowles. In the past, her husband has dismissed such allegations as rubbish.
And in a way, this interview with Dimbleby that Prince Charles did, it was to go with his biography. But when you actually speak to the royal person and they say things, they're taken out of context, and that they should know that. And Dimbleby asked Prince Charles, really, when his affair with Camilla started, and he said when his marriage had irrevocably broken down.
Until it became irretrievably broken down. Us both having tried.
Everyone was writing frantically, and it was an enormous story. And, you know, he'd admitted adultery, basically, on television, which was probably not a very sensible thing to do. But I think Charles felt also that maybe it was good to get it out there, and eventually it would all be forgotten. But, I mean, sadly for Charles, it has never been forgotten.
So you can imagine, it's not a very happy or encouraging thing when this sort of business happens. So obviously it would be nice if, you know, if it could be over and done with. I mean, it has happened. That is that, regrettably.
The woman at the centre of these latest royal revelations, Camilla Parker Bowles, was today at home with her family in Wiltshire. It's claimed in the second extract from the Jonathan Dimbleby biography, which is published in today's Sunday Times, that she and the Prince of Wales have had 3 separate affairs.
I think Camilla was in a very, very unpleasant situation. She almost became a prisoner in her own home. She was vilified. She was absolutely hated by everyone. I mean, actually, the Queen felt very sorry for her. She called her that much maligned woman, because, you know, they've known the Parker Bowles all their life. You know, Andrew's father was a great friend of the Queen Mother, and they were all, acquaintances. So the Queen felt desperately sad for Camilla, and it was a very, very, very difficult time for her, especially after Diana died. I mean, then she was even more of a prisoner.
Whilst the 90s proved an extremely challenging decade for Charles and Camilla, with divorces and scandal, they were finally free to continue their relationship. But it turned out not to be quite so simple. The nation's sweetheart, Diana, died in a tragic accident in August 1997. A grieving public would not take kindly to Charles and Camilla flaunting their relationship, and so the couple kept their relationship private and out of the public eye. And so began a period where Camilla's life was reduced to being very much in the background and kept almost entirely from public view, away from the prying eyes of the media. It was a challenging time for Charles and Camilla, but they patiently persevered.
Back in Stevenage, the Prince himself was on message for romance. When handed a mug for Valentine's Day, he said, "That'll be very useful."
It's a Valentine's shop.
Is it?
Valentine's.
Always see, gracious me. That's very kind. They're very useful. We've all got one of these.
Prince Charles has not been a king in waiting, but rather he has got on with his job and more than fulfilled his duty, focusing on his charitable pursuits and working extremely hard to have a meaningful and purposeful life. The Prince's Trust, the environment, and the Duchy of Cornwall have all made an enormous positive impact on the lives of millions of people. However, the Prince had a major problem. As heir to the throne, he really needed the support of the public. Although a monarch is not chosen by public vote, public opinion is incredibly important to keep confidence in the institution of the monarchy. In the Queen's historic and record-breaking reign, she has had ample time to prove her ability to fulfill the role of monarch. She has continued to be held in very high regard by the public, which is part of what makes her reign such an enormous success. She embodies everything the people believe it means to be a Great Britain. Unfortunately for Charles, his public image was badly damaged after his marriage to Diana ended. He was vilified by the media and was struggling to rejuvenate his reputation. Some were calling for him not to take his place in the line of succession and to instead let Prince William take his place when the time came. In an attempt to try and restore the prince's reputation, Mark Bolland was appointed to help with Charles's public image. Having lost Camilla once, Charles was not going to allow the courtiers to dissuade him from his relationship. He declared that Camilla was a non-negotiable part of his life, and though this was met with disapproval in some quarters, they continued their relationship. So Mark Bolland's task was to enhance both Charles and Camilla's profiles. In 1999, Charles and Camilla decided enough time had passed since Diana's death that they would be happy to reveal their commitment to each other as a couple. Operation Ritz was an opportunity to give the media the picture for which they had all been waiting. They told the press they would be attending Camilla's sister Annabelle's 50th birthday party together.
Well, Charles is a great believer that time is a healer, and he is, in essence, right. And he thought, if we take it very gently, we'll get it right, and people will accept Camilla because she's wonderful, and people have accepted Camilla, but it did take a long time. And there's a lot of people that will never accept her. But it did take a long time, and they did it very gradually. Then they became under so much pressure for the first picture of them together. And they thought of all different ways of doing it. Maybe they just should release a picture of them together. Maybe they should arrange for them to be out somewhere and press would just happen to be there. But in the end, they decided to do it at Camilla's sister's birthday party at the Ritz. And they let everybody know, or their press officer let everybody know, that they would be walking out of the party together. So there was an unbelievable bank of photographers. And even now, when they show this moment, they put a warning on television, flash photography. It was just like crazy. But people got the picture of Charles and Camilla together, so that was the beginning.
Outside the Ritz, they're ready for one of the shots of the year. Charles and Camilla together at last. Tonight, it's expected the couple will leave a birthday party together, finally acknowledging in public a relationship that started back in the 70s.
If you ask any photographer which the picture they want to take, it's Prince Charles with Camilla Parker Bowles. It's the one great picture left to take.
How important is it not to miss the shot?
Oh, you can't afford to miss it. You know, you've got to get the two of them together, walking down those steps. If you get that, you're there.
The Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles about to come out now.
As they left the Ritz, the photographers crowded outside. The flashes of the cameras were blinding as the glamorous and smiling couple walked down the red carpet to their waiting car.
The Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles seen together in public quite clearly, coming down the steps of the Ritz after the party for the 50th birthday party for Camilla's sister. No secret about their relationship now, none possible at all. The photograph that people have waited so long, the picture that people have waited so long to see. Quite brief, really, out of the doors, down the steps, into the car, and driving away. Absolute cascade of flashbulbs, only a few seconds, but the picture, the scene that says so much.
Overnight, the press has rolled, turning 15 seconds on the steps of the Ritz into history. Once rumours gathered pace that the couple would appear together here at the Ritz Hotel, royal watchers were out in force in a type of media interest not seen since the days of Diana, Princess of Wales, and all to get that one important picture that shows the charade is finally over.
This is good. This is what he should have done a long time ago. You know, obviously, they love each other. Now they can get on with their lives. And I think the press will afford them a fair degree of privacy now.
Well, the public have been longing to see them together, so I think they liked that. But there was a huge animosity to Camilla, especially in America, where they love Diana and still do. And they you know, in America, everything's about glamour and how you look, and they just thought, well, she's not glamorous enough. And they didn't think that maybe she was exactly the sort of woman that Prince Charles needed, because they didn't really know him.
Slowly but surely, public perception began to warm, and so did relationships within the royal family. The Queen accepted an invitation to attend the 60th birthday party of the King of Greece at Highgrove, knowing that Camilla would also be in attendance. As the first public meeting between Camilla and the Queen, it was a strong signal that she was beginning to accept their relationship. That year, Charles had also taken Camilla as an unofficial companion to various engagements in Scotland.
Prince Charles was in the driving seat this morning as he left Highgrove, knowing the road is now officially clear for him to continue his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. He's said to be delighted that the Queen has finally acknowledged his long-term companion.
It took until 2001, at an event for the National Osteoporosis Society, for us to catch a glimpse into the couple's affectionate side when they shared their first public kiss.
Camilla greeted Charles with a kiss. It was the first time the couple had shown such affection in public. Also at the reception, some 300 guests, including ex-King Constantine of Greece and his wife Anne-Marie, whom Camilla knows well.
I think that he had to suppress that love. He isolated himself from that relationship for the first 5-6 years of his marriage out of a sense of duty to the decision that he had made. Did he always love her? Yes, and now you see the fruit of that.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you think about how the view has changed of Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, because at one point she was vilified by the media. It was always negative. It was, home wrecker and all this kind of thing, and having the affairs and the affair with the prince and everything. And so people just didn't want her, didn't like her. I remember that. I remember when I joined the household and somebody knew that I was the butler and just said, oh, I don't like her, and I would think, wow, really? You don't know her, but you don't like her. And that's changed to where today, I don't remember, I don't remember the last time I read anything negative or bad about her. I can't remember. It's always positive, it's always good. As far as PR goes, she's done an amazing job at, I think, at changing public opinion.
As he left, the Prince was asked if he'd seen anything Mrs. Parker Bowles might care for.
Are you looking forward to the big day? Are you looking forward to the big day?
I'm delighted for the Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles. It's very happy news, and when the Cabinet heard it this morning, they sent congratulations and good wishes on behalf of the whole government.
So I remember one morning, the television was on in the other room, and suddenly we had breaking news. and it said the Prince of Wales has announced his engagement. And we worked for him, but we didn't know. We didn't know. And I remember getting into the room and watching this, and we were all like, wow, they're engaged, and we didn't know.
They've waited long enough, but tonight they emerged as a couple soon to be wed. If you've been together this long, you've perhaps a right to demand a ring worth waiting for, and in this regard the royal family doesn't disappoint. Camilla sported a whopping diamond upon her finger, and she was clearly on a high.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed. I can have a best.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling, ma'am?
All right.
Just all right?
I'm just coming down to earth.
Did you get down on one knee to propose?
Of course. What else?
Good things come to those who wait. That was certainly true for Charles and Camilla. Having spent years building their public image and warming the hearts and minds of those closest to them, a very special announcement was made. In February 2005, Charles and Camilla were engaged to be married, 35 years after having first met.
I think in the early days, in fairness to her, I think it was obviously slightly nerve-wracking as well, because she was marrying into the family. She obviously knew the family very well, but suddenly she was marrying into the family and was going to become, well, one of the most senior members of the royal family. So I think there was quite a bit of pressure for her, but she's never, in all the years I was there, she never changed. She was always the same.
Your Royal Highness, 8 days now to the wedding. Can I ask you how you are feeling? How in particular Princes William and Harry are feeling at the prospect of the marriage?
Very happy, very pleased. It's a good day.
Prince Charles, how are you feeling?
Well, it's a very nice thought, isn't it? I'm very glad you've heard of it anyway.
Prince William, can I just ask you, are you looking forward to being a witness?
Yes, very much so, definitely. As long as I don't lose the rings, I'm all right. Yeah. The one responsibility, I'm bound to do something wrong.
I think it's very difficult to know William and Harry's relationship with Camilla. I think that they certainly didn't. And then William was the first one to meet Camilla, which was slightly by accident. He met her at St. James's Palace, where his father was living at the time. And he, I think, you know, Camilla just didn't interfere in their lives, and I think they really warmed to her.
No, she is, she's a wonderful woman, and she's made our father very, very happy, which is the most important thing. William and I love her to bits, get on really well with her. And as far as I see it, nothing's changed. I'm not around that much. I'm at Sandhurst. William's just finished university. Now he's doing a bit of work here and there. So we're not around that much anyway. But when we are around, everyone's happy, everyone's fine, you know.
Well, of course, it's absolutely wonderful news, and all of us, the whole family, are delighted. I don't think one wants to say much more than that, but I'm very happy to reiterate this.
Princes William and Harry also said today in a statement that they were both very happy for their father and Camilla and wished them all the luck in the future.
It was not all smooth sailing. They scheduled their wedding for the 8th of April 2005, but unfortunately, Pope John Paul II died. Prince Charles was expected to attend the funeral on behalf of the Queen, so they had to postpone their wedding until the following day. As this was a last-minute change, much of the memorabilia from their wedding day was dated incorrectly. On the 9th of April 2005, Charles and Camilla married in a civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall with Prince William as best man. Charles and Camilla finally wed. Though a much more scaled-down event than Charles's first wedding, it was clear the day was a very happy one for the royal couple. A day, perhaps, neither of them had thought would ever be possible.
Well, the Queen felt that as the head of the church, she shouldn't be seen to be attending the ceremony. They got married in the town hall in Windsor, and the Queen very wisely said she wouldn't attend the ceremony, but she would attend the blessing in the church, and she would give a reception. And but William and Harry were at the ceremony, and other people supporting them there. It was very, very small, and it was very intimate.
I was busy working at Highgrove. A phone went. One of my colleagues got the phone, and he said, "Oh, there's a phone call for you." And it was one of the Prince's top aides, one of his top aides. And he said, I've been asked to phone you by the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. He says, because they would like to personally invite you to their wedding. Because as a member of staff, you haven't completed the amount of time, but they're sending you a private invitation. I remember that as if it was yesterday. I remember exactly where the call took place. I remember my thoughts. I remember the phone. I remember everything. I remember trying not to get upset because I was so emotional and excited about this. And it was unbelievable. I mean, it was amazing because sadly there I am as a guest to the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, and with all the celeb friends, with other royals, VIPs, dignitaries, prime ministers, and I'm there as a guest.
Sadly, in 2014, Camilla's brother, Mark Shand, died in an untimely and accidental death in New York. After celebrating the success of a fundraising campaign for a conservation charity, he fell in the street and struck his head. He was taken to hospital, but sadly died. It came as a great shock to Camilla and to the Prince of Wales, who was great friends with Mark. The couple was utterly devastated by the loss. Charles and Camilla took over the work he was doing, becoming joint royal presidents of the charity.
My brother, who founded the charity, I think if he saw all these elephants now scattering across the southwest of England, he'd be so proud. I don't think he died having raised a lot of money for the charity, and my husband and I took it on. I don't think he would have believed how well it could have. It's gone from strength to strength, and you know, I'm just really proud to be part of it. I'm really proud that we've been able, with the help of Ruth, who's absolutely fantastic, to bring it to this level.
For many, it may not be entirely clear what the role of the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall is. Their work is varied. Together and separately, Charles and Camilla take on hundreds of patronages, supporting causes to aid a greater awareness as well as fundraising. Prince Charles is president or patron to over 400 charities and well known to be one of the hardest working royals. Camilla also takes on her own charitable endeavours, as well as supporting Charles in his work. She was careful when she first started not to rush into supporting too many charities, but to choose some she felt passionate about, where she believed she could really make a difference.
I think she now feels that the time is perhaps right to risk a little bit more publicity so that it will benefit the charity, and I think she's wonderful to do that because obviously over the years she's suffered greatly at the hands of the media, and I think she's very brave to be a little more public on our behalf.
My mother was only 72. Then, only 8 years ago, osteoporosis was seldom discussed, rarely diagnosed, and usually attributed to old women with so-called dowager's humps. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the quality of her life became so dismal and her suffering so unbearable that she just gave up the fight and lost the will to live. As a result of my mother's death, I became determined to find some way of helping people with osteoporosis from experiencing the same fate and general disregard that she encountered.
Camilla's first patronage was the Royal Osteoporosis Society, though her work with the charity actually began in 1994. The work the charity was doing was close to the Duchess's heart, and she remains closely involved with the charity, becoming its patron and then president.
Well, I think Camilla's repaired her reputation by just being very patient and just taking it very slowly. She didn't do too many role engagements to begin with. She was always letting Prince Charles take the bow, if you like. He was always in front. It's only really, and probably in the last couple of years, that she's really ranked up her engagements and her patronages and become much more high profile. But I think she's very much, we still feel that she is there for her husband.
Camilla has also shown a particular interest in helping charities and organisations which work in the fight against sexual violence and domestic abuse. Camilla has been praised for her ability to help make victims feel safe and relaxed, and happy to share their stories and experiences.
Today, thanks to the East London Rape Crisis Service, she was well enough to tell her story to the Duchess of Cornwall, who came to visit the new health centre in Ilford, one of 4 rape crisis clinics supported by the Mayor's office, but whose long-term future is under threat due to budget cuts.
Well, I'm very pleased the Duchess of Cornwall has been able to turn up because she gives it a lift. She helps us to publicise something that is so important for women across London, because victims of rape and sexual violence have got to know that there is somewhere they can come where they're going to be secure, where they can talk to people.
Typically, rape victims go for forensic testing, where they have their clothes taken away and are given very basic products to wash with. The Duchess came up with a neat idea to give them a small wash bag filled with lovely aromatic products. It was a small gesture, but it has made a big difference to many. The gem of the Prince's charitable work is the organisation he set up himself in 1976, the Prince's Trust. A charitable organisation to help vulnerable young people.
So when I created the Prince's Trust in 1976 to help improve the lives of disadvantaged young people, it was because I was so acutely aware of the challenges that they faced. And over the years, some of the challenges have changed, but the overall mission of giving people self-confidence, self-esteem, and better opportunities remains the same. And in that time, we have helped over 1 million young people. And I always used to get so annoyed that it hadn't got to 1 million long ago, because we had to keep counting people who were still going through the system, even though we were actually helping 50,000 people a year. I thought, I know my maths is bad, but... So we've helped over 1 million young people transform their lives, and the Prince's Trust now works in 18 countries across the Commonwealth and beyond.
Originally started using funds from his own Royal Navy severance pay, amounting to just over £7,000, the charity has gone on to help over 1 million people. It remains one of the biggest successes of his career as the Prince of Wales.
I would like to take this opportunity to say to you, Charles, how proud I am of everything you have accomplished with the Trust and the way you personally have inspired this organisation. It is a very great pleasure for me, therefore, to present a Royal Charter to the Prince's Trust in recognition of its outstanding achievements over nearly a quarter of a century.
Charles's father, Prince Philip, was a keen environmentalist.
It's totally useless for a lot of well-meaning people to wring their hands in conference and to point out the dangers of pollution or destruction of the countryside if no one is willing or capable of taking any action. The impassioned speeches will be so much effluent under the bridge unless it is followed by drastic political action. Well, sir, time is fast running out, and it remains to be seen whether those in political authority can shoulder their responsibilities in time and act quickly enough to relieve a situation which grows more serious every day.
Inspired by his father's mission, Prince Charles too has dedicated himself to protecting our environment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the battle against climate change is surely the most defining and pivotal challenge of our times. Even in a world full of daunting perils and crises, it is hard to imagine anything that poses a greater challenge and opportunity for humanity. We are running out of time. How many times have I found myself saying this over recent years?
In the early days, Charles faced frequent ridicule for his opinions on the environment, which he is now praised for. The Queen herself has acknowledged the great impact of the work carried out by Prince Philip, Prince Charles and Prince William in environmental causes and climate change.
This is a duty I'm especially happy to discharge, as the impact of the environment on human progress was a subject close to the heart of my dear late husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. I remember well that in 1969, he told an academic gathering, "If the world pollution situation is not critical at the moment, it is as certain as anything can be that the situation will become increasingly intolerable within a very short time. It is a source of great pride to me that the leading role my husband played in encouraging people to protect our fragile planet lives on through the work of our eldest son, Charles, and his eldest son, William. I could not be more proud of them."
Charles and Camilla do a great deal of work together too. They have become important ambassadors for the United Kingdom. In their overseas tours, requested by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, they work hard in maintaining diplomatic ties with countries across the globe. It is an essential and incredibly valuable role they play.
I think they're wonderful together. And you can see, you know, I think in that royal world, you really can't be on your own. It's very, very difficult. And, you know, she is the perfect person to stand at Prince Charles's side.
Their first foreign tour was to America in 2005. Many comparisons were being made to previous tours by Charles and Diana, but to the great relief of all concerned, the trip was very successful, with Camilla being warmly welcomed by the American public, who really appreciated her down-to-earth attitude.
Last night saw the first true test of this royal visit, a high-profile reception at New York's Museum of Modern Art. A cross-section of people attended, including some celebrities and the city's elite.
I think she's got a great sense of humour, and you need it. So.
Yesterday they began their tour with a gesture that will be widely appreciated in America, a visit to Ground Zero. The Duchess on her inaugural foreign trip, laying flowers at the site where nearly 3,000 people died on that September day. In enduring memory of our shared grief, the royal couple wrote, and all around them the memories of lives lost. 67 Britons were killed on September the 11th, and Prince Charles and Camilla dedicated a small garden to their memory.
Both my wife and I were profoundly moved by what we saw there, and I think it is so fitting that their lives will be commemorated in this garden.
If over the next week Americans tune in to this visit at all, their curiosity will be centered on Camilla.
In recent years, following the height of the coronavirus pandemic, the Prince and the Duchess were the first members of the royal family to undertake an overseas tour when they travelled to Jordan and Egypt and were welcomed by old friends King Abdullah II and Queen Rania. On the 70th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's accession to the throne, Her Majesty released a statement saying, "And when, in the fullness of time, my son Charles becomes king, I know you will give him and his wife Camilla the same support that you have given me. And it is my sincere wish that, when that time comes, Camilla will be known as Queen Consort as she continues her own loyal service."
Which I think is important to the Queen, because I think she's a huge believer that as the wife of a king, that lady should be Queen Consort. That's how she sees it, and I think that's really important. You know, the relationship has definitely become stronger, and as she's seen Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, become more relaxed in the role or make it her own, I think it's given the Queen the confidence to know that she one day will make a wonderful Queen Consort.
But just one note of caution. In our right to speak freely, please let us not become too politically correct. Because surely political correctness is as severe a form of censorship as any.
So that's why has asked all of us to acknowledge that wish and accept her as the wife of Prince Charles, as a Queen Consort when he becomes king.
Having stated after their wedding that Camilla would be known as Princess Consort, this is a sure sign that Camilla has successfully changed hearts and minds. The Queen has personally shown her appreciation for Camilla's work and her loyalty to the crown, clearly expressing her wish that she take the title many thought she once did not deserve, Queen Consort. Following the death of her beloved husband, Prince Philip, in 2021, the Queen has begun to slow down in her royal duties. She has faced periods of illness, including catching coronavirus, and recovery has taken its toll on our remarkable Queen, now in her late 90s. Although she is still fulfilling her role as Queen and Head of State, Charles and Camilla have stepped up too, taking on more of the duties and engagements previously undertaken by the Queen. In that way, they have shown together that they are truly capable of stepping into her shoes. It is now over 50 years since Charles and Camilla first met. The course of true love seldom runs smoothly, and in the case of Charles and Camilla, it certainly did not. But their resilience through the torment of the media has ultimately proved worthwhile. As the Prince and Duchess have built their lives together, they have shown true commitment to their charities and to their official royal duties, working tirelessly to help as many people as possible and to effect real and positive change. Throughout it all, they have been each other's biggest support in everything they do, facing life's day-to-day challenges together with a good degree of that notorious Windsor humour. When the time comes to take on the role of King and Queen Consort, there is no doubt that Charles and Camilla will uphold the high standards set by Her Majesty the Queen during her enormously successful and historic reign.
I think in the Duchess of Cornwall that Prince Charles sees she's his soulmate, she's his best friend, and I think that's vice versa. I don't think that's one way. I think they both see that in each other. And, you know, when you see them together and they're on the same wavelength, I think the Queen and Prince Philip had it. I think Prince Charles and Camilla have got it. I think William and Kate have got it. And they're really lucky. They're really lucky that they've got that royal connection.
Their story is one of love, loss, and heartbreak. But as with all the best love stories, they found their happily ever after against all odds.